So, past couple weeks has been a little bit of a doozy for me, but I think what irritates me the most about these wounds and trauma um, that we're dealing with is the disconnection that happens. It just these lies of trauma that somehow we don't matter, that somehow we're to blame for what happened, that this isolation, this disconnection, this shame, this it we disconnect from ourselves. And what is so irritating about that is we lose sight of our value, we lose sight of our purpose, we lose sight of who we are, um and forget that our voice has a place in this world, that we have choice, that we get to decide what our life is. And we don't want to let trauma define us. And yet, sometimes these deep wounds just keep popping up. And even wounds that may seem like they shouldn't be so deep or they shouldn't matter, they just pop up. And our course, we get off course. We want to go somewhere and we can't get there. And then the disconnection that we have with others. Um, this past couple of weeks, it was interesting. I spent some time reading old letters. I mentioned that in my last video. And I have so many wonderful, good people in my life. And I disconnected from a lot of that. Um, Trauma and dealing with trauma and trying to make sense of it and trying to heal it leaves me feeling so vulnerable and so shameful that I hide myself, and I've hid myself from good friends and family and disconnected, um, to maintain a feeling of safety. And as I've read these letters, I just want to say thank you to all of you who, I read letters from my childhood through married life, and I have met some incredible people in this world, and I am forever grateful for them and for these letters that I have when I'm going back and healing, and the support that I feel and the connection that I feel. And so thank you for that. You may have written that letter just in correspondence or because you were thinking about me. I don't know why you wrote those letters. And I hope I wrote back. I hope I wasn't that disconnected, but I may have been. And if I was, I'm sorry. Um, that's the hard part, is we get hurt and we hurt other people. So if I've been a hurt in your life, I hope that you can forgive me. I hope that I can repair that at some point, because this life is hard enough and we really need each other. And these wounds really trauma can disconnect us. So just thank you to all of you in my life. And thank you for helping me make those connections. And hopefully, I wasn't entirely disconnected. Hopefully, I wrote back some. Hopefully, there was a relationship there, at least for a while. I know I haven't been in touch with a lot of you for a long time. And anyways, it was fun to go back and read those and have that reconnection. And the other thing that happened this week, is I had an opportunity to talk with a friend. We spent a few hours after church on Sunday just sharing, our desire to help people in the world. And we were just having a conversation, and that connection reminded me that I have purpose, that I have value, that I have a voice, and I can choose to share that. And that's what these videos are about, is I'm choosing to step out of my vulnerability, to step out of the lies of trauma and step into, the courage of sharing who I am and the the things that I've learned, and how it's helped me, in hopes that it helps someone else. So thank you, Audrey, for that conversation. Thank you to all of you who've been a support and loved me in my life. It matters. And that's the topic of today. These reflections and this conversation I had with Audrey allowed me to connect to myself, back in a way and to connect with other people and with my world a little bit more and be reminded. And so, connection, that's what we need when we're in isolation and disconnection, when trauma tells us that disconnection is safer and we're better. That might be true for a time, but connection is what we need. As humans, we are wired for connection. We are meant to be here to help each other out. And I was reminded of a little nugget of wisdom that I'd like to share in this video, and that is mind maps. I learned about mind maps, and I want to share that wisdom with you. It's helped me in my healing to get curious. It's helped me to make connections with myself. It's helped me to make connections with others. And so it's kind of a big picture thinking. I like to think broad and big, and then we can bring it back in. And mind maps. Mind maps are, well, if you think about it, there are billions of us on this planet, all over the world, billions of people on this planet. And we're all connected. We all share this earthly experience together. We're all here. And we're all also very individual and unique. And we each have a unique and individual way that we see, perceive, and navigate our world. And those things are based on a number of factors. Here are the ones that I thought about. One, we're spiritual beings. We came here not as a blank slate. We brought with us intelligent experience, personality, talents, skills, purpose. You can look at any two babies. They're not the same. They're not exactly the same. They come here, we come to this earth already with experience and stuff that we've gained before here. And we don't come as a complete blank slate. The spiritual part of us is eternal. It existed before here, it'll exist after here. But while we're here, we gain a body. We all are born and we gain a body. Some of us are born with physical challenges. Some of us are born more healthy. There's a scale of healthy, how healthy our bodies are when we're born. And we all have something different, a different birth story, different things that happen around our birth, but we all get a body, whether it's 100% together or whether there's some flaws. And that's part of our experience and part of what makes us who we are. And we're all born into circumstances where we need to rely on others to care for us and others to teach us. So we're influenced and taught by our parents or caregivers. Some people grow up in orphanages. They don't necessarily raised with their parents, or they grow up with their aunt and uncles or grandparents. But we have people who care for us, and we are influenced by that care, by their teachings, by their beliefs. We are influenced by our community, by our family members, extended family members, by friends, by teachers, school teachers, religious teachers. All the people in our life influence the way we see things and the teachings we believe. We are all born into different cultures. We have different cultural traditions and experiences, different cultural beliefs. We are born in different time periods. Some of us were born in the early 1900s, some of us not born until the 2000s. Each of us have experiences in this life, some amazing, some are good, some bad, and some traumatic. And all of these factors, all of these influences, all of these teachings, all of these experiences, the time period, the culture, everything influences our belief system, influences the way we see the world, the way we perceive the world, the way we navigate the world. And I don't believe any two maps are exactly the same, but we can share similarities that make it easier to connect with someone than another. And connection here is what's important. Let's talk about what connection is. Brene Brown, I'm a fan. She's got a lot of good things. Here's what her interpretation of connection is. Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, and when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. So, especially in disconnection, what we need is connection. Connection can happen within ourselves when we understand and respect our own mind map. This energy that Brene Brown talks about, this energy of being seen, heard, and valued, that can happen within ourselves when we are willing to see, hear, and value ourselves, the experiences, our thoughts, our beliefs, what we've been through. When we can understand and respect that and look at the truth of it, or the truth of it, and look at the whole perspective of things, we can create strength and resilience and connection within ourselves. That's super important. And it's super important that we reconnect these parts of us that have been disconnected because of wounds or traumatic experiences. Because the wounds and trauma can disconnect us, we might not really understand our map. We might not know what it looks like or how to read it. And if we don't know our map, if we don't understand it, if we don't know how to read it, we might have some trouble getting where we want to go. And if we struggle getting where we want to go, and also we might struggle communicating our needs and wants to other people who can help us. So I would like to invite you, and you have choice. So you always get to decide. It's just an invitation. You don't have to do it. It may or may not work for you, but I invite you to get curious about your map, get curious about your life experiences, especially if you tend to have some wounds from the past. Get curious about those. Get curious about where you came from. Um, you can journal. You can create a timeline of your life and start with the basics. Start with the facts. Start with the things that you know, the things that come easily, the fond memories of things. Work your way to those areas that are wounded, and always treat those with great sensitivity. If while we're traveling back, your thoughts take you someplace that you don't want to go, it's okay to stop, pause, go back to a more comfortable thought, and come back to that later when you're ready. Uh, Sometimes we need to have someone else in our life to help us travel to those deep wounds, um, to look at those and to help us see it from a full perspective. And that's okay. And we can talk later about where we can find some of that help if that's something that you need. So for now, just start getting curious. Focus on the basics. What time period did you grow up in? What was the culture teaching at the time? Cultures change from year to year. Like what people are going through today was not the world I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And think about, how did those teachings of the culture of society at the time, how did that affect your belief system? What do you believe about the world because of those teachings? What did you learn from your parents, your grandparents, your friends, family, teachers? And what beliefs did you form from those teachings? What experiences have you had in your life? And how did those experiences shape the way you view, perceive, and navigate your world? You have value and purpose, and your voice matters in this world, and you're unique and individual, and no one has the life experience exactly the way you do. And we're meant to help each other. We're meant to connect with each other. We're meant to share our skills and talents with each other. So we need you. And if you don't know what your map looks like, and if you're not quite sure who you are, take the time to get to know you, because I bet you're pretty special. Our map is unique, and it's important to understand our own system. Because whether or not we understand it, we use it on a daily basis. That foundation that we build from our birth, being born into this world, and the people who influence us, and the time period we're born in, and the culture, all of those things start to build a foundation of who we believe we are in this world and our belief system and how we navigate. So, our brain is wired to take these beliefs. Once it becomes a set belief, it creates a pattern of living, the way we do things, the way we behave. It's a pattern of behavior and it becomes automatic. We don't have to think about it. Imagine if we had to think about every single thing we did. What if we had to think about breathing in order to breathe? Or we had to think about tying our shoes? Um, or we had to think about how to ride a bike or drive a car? Some of us might have to think about that if we don't know that yet. But those of us who have learned it and know it, it's automatic. We don't even have to think about it anymore. It just happens. Our belief system becomes automatic. Those thoughts and beliefs that we have just run and they result, our behavior is a result of our beliefs. So when our identity and who we believe we are and our beliefs align with who we want to be, then we reach the destination we seek. And the results that we get serve us well. When our identity and beliefs don't align with who we want to be, then we might not, our course might be off a little bit. And we might wonder why. If that happens, that's a good indicator that you need to reevaluate your mind map and your belief system because something might be off. In every situation in life so far that I've tested, the result we get will always prove our beliefs to be true. So if we don't like the results that we're getting in life, odds are our belief system needs an update. Our belief system, what we came to believe as kids under the influence and teachings of our caregivers and those in our community and around us, we came to for a reason. And they served us well for a time period. But if we're not consistently updating and our belief system and making sure it's in alignment with who we're trying to become, we're going to struggle with getting where we want to go. It took me 4 years to buy a kayak and go out on the lake by myself. I wanted it. That's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be a person who could go kayak on my own, but something wasn't lining up in my belief system on my mind map. And 4 years, I couldn't do it. Wanted it, but I couldn't do it. And it was because of an outdated belief. So I got curious and I took a look and I went back to see, trace back where was that fear coming from? Where was that inhibition, that inhibition coming from? Where was all of that coming from that was keeping me from being able to go out on the lake and do what I wanted to do? Well, I found the belief, and the belief was that I couldn't trust myself to keep myself safe. Believe it or not, that belief kept me safe for a time. That belief was needed at a time in my life. But today, outdated, and it was not serving me well. So I had to update my system and see where that was outdated and reframe it to I am very much capable of keeping myself safe. I can trust myself and I can trust myself to keep myself safe. Because of that update, it set me free. I now can go out on the lake by myself and I can be that person. And I love being that person. I love being in my kayak and I love being out on the lake and I love the evenings that I get to go out and I have the lake to myself. It's amazing. When we understand our own map and our belief system, we can better navigate our life. We when we understand who we are, what we believe, and our behaviors match who we want to become, we get where we want to go. We can meet our own needs and communicate well our needs and wants to others. So, connection with us. Get to know you. Trauma, wounds can make us feel like getting to know us can be scary. Take it slow. But if you don't know yourself and you don't understand your mind map and you don't know what it looks like and you're not sure what your belief system is, take a look at your results. Are you getting the results in your life that you want? Are you living the way you want to be living? And if you're not, then take a look at your belief system, at your mind map. Get curious about it. Be kind, be loving, be compassionate, but get curious. So let's talk about connection and how that happens with others. Because it's important also that we, even during these times that we're trying to heal, that we pull ourselves out of that disconnection and try to connect. So connection happens when we seek to understand and respect someone else's mind map. Have you seen the comic strip where there are two people, one standing here, one standing here, and there's an object on the ground? And one says, that's a 6. And the other says, that's a 9. Well, who's right? Well, I guess that depends on where your perspective. If you're standing over here and you're seeing it from the perspective of a 6, you're going to argue that it's a 6. But if you're standing over here and you see it as a 9, you're going to argue that it's a 9. So what if it's not about so much about being right as it is about sharing our perspective, learning how to describe what things look like from our perspective, and on the other side, learning to listen, to understand, to see and value the perspective of another and find the connection. And sometimes maybe just take a walk around and see it from another person's perspective. Because if we come over here, we're going to go, oh, you see a 9. I get it. We're looking at an object that from each angle is a different number. So it's about sharing our perspective, listening to understand another's perspective, and finding where the connection is. Where do we meet? Where does it look the same? One more example. Metaphorically speaking, let's say that my map looks like New York City. And the tendency of my brain is to assume that because my map looks like New York City, everyone else's map looks like New York City. So I'm going to communicate based on that assumption. So I call up a friend and I say, hey, let's go. Will you meet me at the Empire State Building today? She's going to say, I don't know where that is. And I'll say, oh, it's at 20 West 34th Street. Can you meet me there? And she's like, sure. So on her map, she has 20 West 34th Street. So I get there. I don't see her. I'm looking around, wait a few minutes, don't see her, call her up and say, hey, I'm here. Where are you? And she says, no, I'm here. I'm like, where are you? And I might say, do you see the Empire State Building? She'll be like, no, that's the thing. I don't see the Empire State Building. Well, are you sure that you're at 20th West 34th Street? She'll reassure me, yep, I can see the signs. I'm at 20th West 34th Street. And so we're going to go back and forth and maybe we'll start asking questions. Well, what do you see where you are? What's missing here is that I made an assumption that her map looked just like mine. But the more we communicate, the more we start to share a perspective, I realize she's looking at a map of Minneapolis, Minnesota. She's never going to find the Empire State Building on that map. There's a 20th West 34th Street, but that's not where the Empire State Building is. This confusion could go on, but I realize this, and I might, when I first realize it, be tempted to say, well, you have the wrong map. Your map's all wrong. Now, if I were speaking literally here, yes, it would benefit someone to have a map of New York City to navigate New York City. But in this metaphor, her map isn't wrong. My map isn't wrong. Her perspective is different. And she didn't have the Empire State Building because her map is different. So if we can understand that our maps are different and we can respect that difference, and I want her to meet me somewhere, it would benefit me then to give her directions based on where she's at, figure out where she's at, what her map looks like, understand her, and give her directions how she can get to me. Her map, again, isn't wrong. Mine isn't wrong. We just have to find the path that connects us, the path where we see, hear, and value each other. Disconnection happens when we're unwilling to listen to understand, to see, and to value another. When we make assumptions or quick judgments, when we criticize instead of getting curious. So, my challenge for you this week is to spend some time, get curious about your own map. Look at the results in your life. Are you getting what you want? Are you getting the results of who you want to be? And also, so that you can make connections within yourself. Get curious about that. Connect back to you. See your value. See what your purpose is, what you have to offer. And if something's in the way, we can heal those things that get in the way of us being who we want to be. And also spend some time getting curious about your loved one's map and listening to understand, to see and value another person, to, as Brene Brown said, to offer, to be able to give and receive without judgment. That's where that curiosity piece comes in. And let us strengthen one another and give, when we speak to ourselves or we speak to others, let that be a source of strength. And have fun with this challenge. Connection. We find healing in connection. See you next time.